If you want to make more money, then you need to know what the rules of money are, which is why in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the 10 rules of money that I learned directly from working with a number of different billionaires. These rules have helped me build multiple profitable businesses, travel the world, build the house of my dreams, and become financially independent. And I know if you listen, learn, and apply the lessons that I'm going to share with you in this video, I know they can help you too. So let's get to it. All right, let's talk about money. More so the acquisition of money, which is a bit of a weird thing to talk about, especially because the subject of money, or the subject of trying to get more money, has always been kind of a taboo subject, something you're not really supposed to talk openly about. But this is nuts, because money, or the acquisition of money, the spending of money, the saving of money, everything to do with money is one of the single most important things that you could ever hope to learn, much less apply, into your life, because everything you're going to do in some way, shape, or form is going to require or involve the use of money. And if you're like most people that watch this channel, well then you've got some big goals, some big dreams, and some big aspirations. The larger your goals and dreams and aspirations, the more things you want to do, the more businesses you want to build, the more people you want to serve, and more people you want to help, the more money it's going to require. So with all that said, let's start with rule number 1. The fact that we need to understand, we need to appreciate, we need to accept the fact that money is vital. It's an important part of your everyday life, so you need to make it a priority in your life and really give it the respect and attention that it deserves. Now, the first step here in prioritizing money and in giving it the respect it deserves means really overcoming some negative beliefs or some mindset habits or attitudes that may be holding you back from really achieving the level of financial abundance that you truly want. I mean, maybe you've heard that money is the root of all evil, or maybe when you're growing up, you were told that no, we can't afford that, or no, you can't have it, or money doesn't grow on trees, or anything like that. Reality is these are just beliefs. And beliefs are often wrong, especially when it comes to money, because any one of these can be turned around. First of all, something as common or as commonly held as money is the root of all evil, well, that's not even the right quote. It's actually the love of money is the root of all evil. So even when people are using these things to tell you that money's bad, they're more often than not getting it wrong. Plus, maybe you've heard that money doesn't grow on trees. That's true, but stuff grows on trees and you can sell stuff for money. Things like apples and peaches and pears. After all, when's the last time you bought an apple? Odds are good you paid for it in cash, which means technically money could grow on trees. Anyway, I'm not here to tell you that you need to start a fruit orchard or anything like that. Rather, that sometimes the beliefs that you hold, well, they're in there pretty deep and they could be negatively influencing your perceptions and your attitudes towards money. The reality is, if you want to do great things, you're going to need some money to do it. The fact of the matter is that money isn't good or bad. It's just a tool, and it's a tool that can help you do things and support causes that you believe in. If you want to build a school, it's going to cost some money. You want to feed people and help feed the hungry, it's going to cost some money. You want to donate to causes and really support things that you believe in, also going to require some money. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do things like volunteering or donating your time or anything like that. Those are very noble, very, very important things that help a lot of people. But the reality is you can also make a pretty good difference by donating $10,000 or $100,000 or $1 million. Now, the exact amount of money that you're going to need, well, it's going to depend on you, your vision and your goals and your dreams and everything you want to achieve. But the more money you have, the more people you're going to be able to help. All right, let's move on to the next rule of money, which is that money follows vision. Now, how much money that you're going to be able to get into your life, how much you're going to be able to earn and retain and essentially use to help other people is going to depend very, very much so on how clear your vision is for what you want to do and why you want to do it. For example, pretty much everybody says, I want more money. But let's be honest, if I gave you $1, you'd technically have more money. But odds are good that wouldn't be enough. So you might say, well, I want more money than that. I could give you another $1, but again, we're back in the same loop. You need to be specific, you need to be clear, and you need to really articulately and definitely define the amount of money that you're after. Now, I'm not saying you need to stick with this number for the rest of your life. This could change and probably should change as you start to expand your ability and your ability to earn more, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But the reality is you need to start somewhere, and that somewhere is being clear with what you're trying to achieve. Also, as I kind of hinted at, not only do you have to say what you want, but you also have to say why you want it. It's really the why, the feelings, the importance and the emotions behind something that's going to push you through the difficult times and really help you achieve what it is that you're after. The stronger your why, the stronger the emotions behind what you're trying to achieve, well, the greater likelihood it is that you're going to achieve it. So when you're defining defining your number, when you're writing down just exactly how much you want and how much you want to earn, make sure you're really clear about why this is important. What's it going to mean to you? What's it going to mean to your family or to your friends? What's it going to mean to all of the people that you're going to be able to help? And maybe more importantly, what's it going to mean to all those people if you don't achieve it? A good, solid, strong why means that you're far more likely to achieve your goals, so spend some time working on that one. All right, the next rule of money is a little bit counterintuitive and maybe something you haven't heard before, and that's that money does indeed buy happiness. Yes, you can buy happiness with money, but only up to a certain point. You see, depending on what study you read or when they conducted the survey, there is a certain minimum threshold of amount of money that people need in order to be, quote unquote, happy. And anything above that, they're saying, well, necessarily doesn't equate to more happiness. For easy math and an easy explanation here, let's just use the number of $100,000 a year. Essentially, up to the point of making $100,000 a year, you're going to become exponentially more happy as you go from $40,000 to $60,000, up to $80,000, and then all the way up to $100,000 a year. Because at this point, for most people in most parts of the country and most parts of the world, you're going to be able to buy food and shelter and trips and some luxury items as well. There is, however, a point of diminishing returns, where any additional money on top of that doesn't lead to exponential increases in happiness, but only incremental increases of happiness. For example, if you're going to feel twice as happy from going from $50,000 a year to $100,000 a year, well, that happiness isn't necessarily going to double again when you go from $100,000 to $200,000, or $200,000 to $400,000, or $400,000 to $800,000. There is a diminishing return. It's hard to accept if you haven't seen those numbers before, but the reality is it's very much true. Fortunately or unfortunately, I found this out the hard way when I first became quote-unquote successful and started making a lot of money. I found that as my income increased, I was increasingly happy, but up around that $100,000 mark, well, my happiness kind of capped. And though my income doubled and then doubled again and continued to climb, I wasn't getting any happier. And this was terrifying because I'd basically built my entire life on trying to accumulate more wealth and more money in order to become more happy. So when this wasn't happening, I kind of freaked out. Now, there is a hidden lesson here in that you definitely want to be pursuing things that you're passionate about and that you care about in the pursuit of wealth, but I would argue that in those early days of first getting going in the business world, well, reaching that minimum viable threshold, that minimum number, that $100,000 a year, that was vital. I needed that in order to feel successful, in order to feed my family, in order to pay my bills, in order to pay off debt. All of the stuff that goes into making money. And so that's why that's my main recommendation for people who are just getting started in the world of business or starting their careers or trying to make more money. You need to do whatever you can. You need to work your face off in order to hit that minimum viable threshold, whether it's $80,000 a year or $100,000 a year or maybe even $120,000 a year, depending on which part of the country you're living in. Well, you need to hit that minimum level so you can afford to feed your family, you can afford to pay your bills, and you can afford to feel that successful, happy feeling. But be careful beyond that point because you're going to need to serve a greater master than just money. Otherwise, you'll find that the happiness quickly fades away. Now, there is an important point, an important caveat that I do have to mention here. While your happiness won't increase necessarily above that, say, $100,000 mark a year, your quality of life will increase. And that's absolutely important, which is why I still continue to try to earn more, to try to provide more value, and to try to build greater and greater businesses. All right, the next rule of money is probably one of the single most important lessons that I learned from my billionaire mentors and clients, and that is that time is more valuable than money. Now, when you're first getting started in your career or in business, you typically have more time than money. And that's okay. You can spend that time in order to learn things that'll help you make more money. But eventually you're going to reach a point where you're going to have more money than time. And in this point, you really have to prioritize saving time at all costs. You see, you can always find a way to make more money, but you can never get back time that's gone or that you've lost. This was a lesson I learned time and time again from all of the billionaires that I worked with. One of the best examples is I used to be a pilot and I was flying business jets for billionaires. And in the cockpit, we would have this little red line that would show basically max speed, how fast we were able to go. Now, without getting too technical here, essentially I could push the throttle all the way forward and we would go maybe a tiny bit faster, but it would burn a ton more gas and a ton more money. Well, sure enough, without fail, any time that I let that line dip just out of the red into the black zone where we were saving a little more gas, maybe costing a few more minutes, I'd feel a tap on my shoulder and it was the passenger coming up to be like, Captain, we gotta go. And so inevitably, I would push the throttle forward, we'd spend a ton more money, but we'd get there a few minutes faster, and the client was absolutely thrilled because they knew they couldn't get that time back, but they could go make a whole lot more money. The takeaway point here is take a look at your life and take a look at your business and all of the things that you're doing and find areas that you're wasting time or maybe not being as efficient as you could. Even if you take your entire yearly salary and you break it down into the hours that you have, you'll start to find ways that you could maybe delegate or outsource some of the tasks that you're doing that are probably not in your zone of genius and pay someone less than your time is currently worth right now, which is a nice, easy way to start to kind of dip your toe in the water of outsourcing, of delegating, and becoming more valuable in your life and in your work. All right, so the fifth rule of money is none other than compound interest. Compound interest is what Albert Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world. He wasn't kidding. Some pretty powerful stuff. Essentially, the way compound interest works, if you've never heard of it before, is that you can take an investment of, say, $100, earn 10% on that investment, in this case, $10, and you've now got $110. But you're going to also get the interest earned on that entire sum. So your $10 is going to earn money as well as your 100. And then the interest that you earn on that is going to earn more interest and more interest and more interest. And it just snowballs and compounds from there, meaning you can start with a little, end up with a lot. Now, the downside of this all is that compound interest takes a long time, and in the early days, you don't really see much movement because you're just earning interest on a little bit of money and a little bit of interest. It takes time for that to compound and start to build on itself and build on itself even more. So inevitably, 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, that's when you end up with the megabucks. But this is kind of disheartening for a lot of people. It's, after all, you're putting in a little money, you're watching it not grow very fast, and you're just counting on and relying on the fact that it's going to double in 7 years, 10 years, and then again. But 30, 40, 50 years down the road is a pretty long time, especially if you have more ambitious goals and you really want to increase your money now. Well, this is why I'm a firm believer in compound interest, in saving a large portion of your income, in investing it wisely, and in letting it grow and do its thing behind the scenes, without you managing it and watching it every single day. But I'm also a firm believer in the next rule of money. And the next rule of money is all about value, and essentially increasing your earning potential. The beauty of this is it allows you to make a whole lot more money right now, rather than just years down the line. There's a great quote that I love about earning potential and about providing value that is, you'll be paid in direct proportion to the value you provide to the marketplace. Now, I'm not talking about your personal value as a human being. You're valuable, you're great, you're amazing. But your value to the marketplace is pretty much directly reflected in the amount of income that you're currently generating. This is why, if you want more income, if you want more money, if you want to increase the amount of money that you're earning, you're going to need to dramatically increase the amount of value that you're providing to the marketplace. When I first got into the workforce, well, my first sort of unofficial job was delivering newspapers, and I was worth probably around $2, maybe $3 an hour. Not a whole lot, but I wasn't really that valuable. Fast forward a few years and I got my first official job when I was 14 years old, working as a cook's assistant in a kitchen. And there, I made $5 an hour. 8-hour shifts, no breaks, hot kitchen, $5 an hour. Wasn't glamorous, but I was worth about $5 an hour. Fast forward a few more years after that, and I became a lifeguard, and I started earning $15 an hour. And I tell you, at the time, I thought I had struck gold. Well, over the years, throwing a few odd jobs here and there, selling hockey skates, selling running shoes, all sorts of other stuff, and I then became a pilot, and I was making a whole lot an hour. And I thought I'd really made it then, and I had more money than I knew what to do with. But I still wasn't anywhere near my earning potential because even as a pilot, I was valuable, but there were other people that could do what I did as well, and I was essentially replaceable. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. Well, it wasn't until I left flying and I started my own businesses that I really figured out how to provide the most valuable possible to the marketplace in order to essentially earn the most money possible in exchange for my services. You see, it was here that I learned that in order to make the most money possible, I had to deliver the highest valuable skills possible, which meant skills that were really challenging to acquire and really challenging to replace or have other people do them. So I really doubled down on what I believed was the most valuable skill that aligned with my talents and my abilities and also my interests, in this case marketing, and I went absolutely wild trying to learn everything that I could about marketing, and it paid off. But the only way I was able to do this was with the next rule of money, which is all about focus. Focus is one of the single most important elements to success and to accumulating great wealth. In fact, both Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, at the same time when asked what the most important skill was, well, they both said focus at the same time. It's not a coincidence. And in fact, you'll find that same answer across all of the different multimillionaires and billionaires, people with a whole lot of money. It's because it's going to take an almost maniacal level of focus in order to achieve what you're truly after. Now, the argument against this is, of course, the infamous diversification. Here's the deal on diversification. It's an okay strategy for the average person, but if you really want to exceed the average, if you really want to accomplish great things and accumulate a large amount of money, you're going to need to focus, which means concentrating on areas that you have unique skills, unique abilities, and interest in, rather than spreading yourself thin across a million different areas. If you end up diversifying too early, well, you'll never really get anywhere, because rather than concentrating your energy and your time and your attention and the money that you have in one single area and working at it until it's done, you spread yourself too thin and you end up really going nowhere. This is why the key to attracting more money, to becoming more valuable, is really to focus and to concentrate on that one key area that you can move the needle on. Now, you're going to need to be strategic about this. You're going to need to do a little bit of due diligence into the market, into their demands, and also into your unique abilities, your skills, your talents, and your interests, and to find the overlap. All right, so with all that said, let's move on to the next rule of money, which is all about irreplaceability. Essentially a long word that means that you're irreplaceable. Whatever you do, whatever skill, whatever service you offer to the market isn't easily replaced by someone else or something else. Essentially, the harder that you are to replace, the harder it is to find somebody else to do what you're doing, the more valuable you're going to be and the more money you're going to be able to earn and to attract. There's a great book by Seth Godin called Linchpin that, if you haven't read it yet, highly recommend it. Really good book on this exact topic, on how to become irreplaceable to the market. The key with becoming irreplaceable is really simple, and essentially you always want to try to do more than you're asked. You always want to give more than you get. Really, you want to try to go above and beyond every single time you get the opportunity to. When you do this, you build a reputation, both to yourself and to the market, as someone who goes above and beyond, as someone that other people can rely on, and as someone that's really going to deliver an A+ service to whoever it is that you're serving. If I could give anyone one piece of advice when it comes to success, when it comes to achieving their goals, it would be this: do more than you're asked to do. Do more than you're paid to do. Do more than is expected of you. When you do this, when you rise above expectations, when you do more than you're asked, when you give more than anybody expects you to give, it will pay off, definitely in the long run, and probably in the short run too. Because these people are rare. People that do more than they're asked, people that go above and beyond, really go that extra mile. Again, you know they're rare. There's not a lot of them out there in the marketplace. So if you can rise up, if you can be one of these coveted, these valuable, these rare individuals, well, the market will prioritize you, it will seek you out, and it will reward you with more money. All right, the next rule of money is all about identity. It's all about really developing a millionaire's mindset or a billionaire's mindset if that's the goal that you're after. You may have heard the statistic how the vast majority of lottery winners, well, once they win all of that money, they're back to being broke or maybe even bankrupt or maybe even more in debt within about 2 years after winning. Why is that? Well, reality is it's pretty simple. They haven't developed the mindset or the habits or the attitudes or the beliefs behind somebody with that level of money. So sure enough, they just go out and blow it all, possibly spending even more than they already had. This is why probably the most important advice I could offer you in developing a millionaire mindset, in developing the mindset that's going to attract more wealth to you, is to be, do, then have. Let's start with be. Essentially, B is all about forming the identity, the habits, the attitudes, the thought patterns, the behaviors. How would somebody that is achieving the level or the goals that you want to achieve, well, how would they be? How would they act? What would they wear? What would they eat? Where would they travel? What kind of friends would they have? What activities would they partake in? Would they meditate? Would they work late? Would they exercise? All of those things that go into forming the ideal identity for your goals. Now, in that long list of things, you'll also have noticed some do items, some of the things, some of the attitudes, some of the habits, some of the practices. Well, once we've got the be, the identity, and the do, the habits, the activities, the behaviors, then we can move on to the have. It always goes in this order and never the other way around. You see, essentially, it's like somebody saying, well, I'll be happy once I'm successful, or I'll be happy once I get that vacation, or I'll be happy once somebody finally recognizes me for how great I truly am. It doesn't work that way. You have to put in the work first. It's kind of the old chicken or the egg situation, or it's kind of like yelling at a farm or yelling at a field and saying, why aren't you giving me any food, when you haven't done any of the work of planting the seed or watering or anything like that. I think that's how farming goes. All right, let's move on to the 10th rule of money, which is all about the power of application. Now, I appreciate it's fun to sit around and to meditate, and there's some good benefit to it. And there's a lot of value in reading self-help books and taking advice there. It's also great to visualize success and to write out your goals and to imagine them as if they've already come true. In fact, a lot of the self-help and success industry have built entire campaigns and entire industries around this thing. Books like The Secret, for example, popularized the idea of simply thinking good thoughts and really attracting things to you and visualizing them, and that's all you really need to do. All you need to do to achieve anything you want is just visualize it, believe it'll happen, and then voila, you're successful. But as you and I both know, it's not the case. While this is definitely an important part, and while meditation is important, visualization is important, journaling is important, writing out your goals is absolutely important, they're just one piece of the puzzle. And the missing piece that everybody seems to fail to talk about is doing the work. This is why probably the single most important rule of money is the power of application. Not the power of attraction or the visualizing or anything like that, but the power of actually applying everything you've just visualized, putting it into practice in order to move you closer to your goals. This is why it's incredibly important to go out there and apply everything that we've just talked about here. And if you really want to expedite your results, well, there's probably no greater skill for you to learn than the power of marketing. This is why the next thing you're going to want to do is check out the video I have linked up right here on Introduction to Marketing. So make sure to check that out now, and I'll see you in the next episode. Also, marketing is really important to understand because you are constantly being marketed to by everyone from everywhere.